I'm Dan Albers, and welcome here to This Week in Anderson on the Big Eye Sports Podcast. And as always, I'm joined with my co-host, Steve Ellis, and we're going to introduce our guest here in a minute. But Steve, pretty fired up again. We are, I believe this is number 3 in the studio.
In the studio.
So it's pretty cool that we are able to be in the studio doing this podcast. So it's pretty nice.
Almost back to normal almost. We got a great guest here with Andy Boyd that we're going to get into his accomplishments. But it's just great to have a guest, Andy, that is close to our age and the accomplishments that he has had at Anderson, and being a Redskin through and through, just like you and I.
Absolutely. And like we said, is joining us is Andy Boyd. Obviously that we've known Andy for a while, obviously went to school with him, and it takes, so it's just pretty awesome that Andy, you're joining us, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight.
I appreciate you having me. Really, you guys were like the guys we looked up to when I was a freshman, you guys were juniors maybe?
Yep.
That's scary. So that you're looking up to us.
You guys used to make me shove me in a locker.
No.
Well, I was going to say take us back to the days when back in the days at Anderson, but you kind of explain a little bit. Just take a little bit about. We always talk to everybody about growing up at Anderson High School or growing up at Anderson. Talk a little bit about your childhood, growing up at Anderson, and then what side you lived on. I know a lot of guys saying I lived on this side or this side. So talk a little bit to let everybody know about that.
Well, actually, I grew up in the west side of town, and around 4th or 5th grade, my family moved to Anderson, and I started at Guardian Angels.
Oh, wow.
Went there for 2 years, and then the Forest Hills Junior School was built. I moved for whatever reason. I can't even remember why, and that was kind of my first taste into Anderson, but loved every minute of it. But growing up in the neighborhood I grew up on, over by Mio's in Mount Washington.
Oh yeah.
It's the same thing you guys talk about in all these podcasts. We'd go out in the morning, we'd play all day. It would be wiffle ball or baseball, or we'd make up games and just play. It was great childhood.
Yeah, it's funny that everybody that, like you said, we've had on all these podcasts, it's all been the same. You go out in the morning, you're out all day until your mom calls you in for dinner, and that's pretty much been the theme for everybody we've had.
Well, we probably got to explain that to some of the younger generation of what that means.
Yeah, they don't know what that is. They're playing their Xbox and their phones, and
but that didn't even come around for us until maybe close to high school. Right? It was even an option.
Right. I don't even. I'm being honest. I don't even remember having a phone. We were taught. It was with Joe Moon last. We were taking typing.
Yeah.
That shows you how bad how long ago it was.
Well, you guys are quite a bit older than me, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
All right, he just turned a corner. All right, let me switch to the questions that we're going to ask now.
I know how this works.
So, Andy, I know you played soccer in high school. Did you play any other sports growing up?
Actually, on the west side, we played football.
Okay.
And when I moved to Anderson, hopefully no one takes offense to this.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of great athletes that played football at Anderson, but the hot girls were sitting with the soccer players.
That's right. That's right.
So I had to figure out how to get to that table. And so I started playing soccer.
And there were so many people going to the soccer games back then as there was football.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh.
The old field up there by the baseball field.
So I was a mediocre player. We taught myself to play goalkeeper. And I can remember my junior year watching a Turpin Anderson game from the stands. My senior year, I'm walking out there and I'm starting in the goal, and I'm like, how the hell did I get there?
No kidding.
Because there's 3,000 people lining that upper field back in the heyday. It was incredible.
Yeah.
So going back to that, so you played football. What did you play in football? What position did you play?
When I was little, it would be like nose guard or something on the line. Or a lot of different things. And really, I stopped playing football probably around 6th grade, 5th grade when we moved over here.
Okay.
And then we played neighborhood soccer or whatever.
Okay.
There wasn't a million club teams to choose from.
Nope.
Queen City was a big club here, and I started playing in club my high school in high school.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't hear what was the reason why that you moved from the west side to the east side?
My parents just decided to move. We
Really?
had some friends that live over here, and we were over here a lot. And just
wow. They always say the east side's the best side, is what I hear. I don't know.
Well, you would say that from here. Yeah. I agree with you. Andy's probably in the middle there.
I live here still today. So
Yeah.
So when you went to Anderson and played goalie, who was the coach? Was it Herman's?
Jack Herman's.
Okay.
Joe Moon was my first coach. I just saw the podcast you guys with him. I
Yeah.
loved
Oh, yeah.
him.
He was awesome.
Great guy.
Yep.
And really helped me develop. And Jack was my varsity coach.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Joe's a goalie too.
yeah.
Yeah.
He used to stay after with me almost every practice, and we'd work on things. And he was a good coach.
Was that in front of the old kickboard?
Sometimes, yeah.
They don't have one anymore, do they?
They used to take the goalkeepers, and we'd go to the top of the hill that was right where the old weight room was. You remember that hill out the window?
yeah.
And they'd take us to the top, and they'd roll balls down the hill, and they'd just say, "Go get it." And we'd be fighting over this. It was just
really?
Nothing like it is today.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, that famous hill that you're talking about, that was in football that Stowe made us, he called them bag laps.
Yep.
And you had to take the
telling me that.
dummies, the tackling, that we had to put them up on our shoulders, and we had to run up and down the hills. That was our punishment for that hill was a lot bigger than people. They don't realize how big that thing was. It was a pretty big hill.
And it's straight up.
Yeah.
I ran that several times myself.
Well, you were on some good teams though at Anderson, right?
Oh, I played with some really good players. I mean, both Sullivan was a year ahead of me, 2 years ahead of me, 3 years, maybe. Was he your age?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was the goalkeeper that I really looked up to.
Okay.
And but his little brother played with me, Wayne Lobring.
Wayne, yeah.
All the Yaks
Right.
Yep.
guys, the Dianas.
Oh yeah.
Were really good players. So
And then Johnny decided to switch over from soccer to football his senior year, I believe.
did, yeah.
didn't he?
We
He
were
was
just talking
really
about
good at
that.
soccer.
yeah, he was a really good athlete.
Yeah, period.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those guys all those guys you named. I mean, like, and we'll get into this later, Danny.
Yeah.
But when we get into, we're going to start a top 10 of each sport, and you just named like 4 or 5 guys that
Right.
might be in
Yeah,
for soccer.
For sure.
You know?
I mean, at least need to be discussed.
Mentioned. Well, yes. Yeah.
And that's kind of the trouble we're going through right now. Where we started off with the quarterback, we're going to release it next week. We're going to do a podcast on that. And Andy, I'm telling you what, we had a lot of people respond, and there's names that we don't really know a lot about.
Yeah.
But just from hearing from people, they were just like,
because they predate us, or
yeah. Like, do you remember Steve Lanhart?
I know the name.
He played. He's in a Hall of Fame. He's in a Hall of Fame, and he played football. And he's a quarterback at Anderson. And I don't really know much about him.
maybe from the Hall of Fame.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just, but like you said, those are obviously guys we'll have to talk about in soccer.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's what I want to get Andy with, because Andy being the head coach of the
Absolutely.
women's team, but he also played
Right.
Men's soccer. So I want to get some feedback on that one.
Well, I coached in the
That's right.
90s with Sully for a while. He had
Yes.
me back as assistant, and those guys really taught. There's some guys in that group, the Duman brothers, Brent Rosser, Andy Dorco.
Yeah.
Dorco, yeah.
That's right.
I mean, I could go on and on. Younger Yaks, that need to be in that running too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to hit you up, because we don't know necessarily all the, for each sport. Actually, it's gonna be hard doing some of these other sports like swimming and tennis, and
it'll be fun though.
Yeah, it'll be good
discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So Andy, you after you when you played, I mean, did you go on to college to play, and where did you go, and how was that experience for you?
Yeah, so I went on to play at Heidelberg for a year until I got a letter from the university that said something along the lines of I was academically insufficient and socially irresponsible.
Socially irresponsible.
Or maybe it was reversed.
That's great.
So they asked me to move on to my next big thing, and so I came back to Cincinnati and played in the amateur leagues and around here until maybe mid-20s or
Yeah.
so.
And is that what kind of got you into the coaching side of it?
Yeah, so when I got back, we were playing in the amateur leagues, and there was a guy, Dave Legner, who was the coach of Ursuline, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking for a goalkeeper coach. I have a pretty special goalkeeper, and she needs attention every day. And would you be interested?" And I'm like, "You're going to pay me to do this?" Like, I mean, it was not a whole lot of money, but I was 20-year-old kid. It was like, for sure. And so that's kind of got me into it, and one thing led to another. Started coaching with a group called the Classics back then. It's now defunct, and with Sully. And then Sully took me from there to Anderson, and then I've done a couple other things here and there. You guys want to hear it all?
Well, no, but but what's interesting about that too is you've done a lot of like select stuff, right? Obviously, coaching
for sure.
Yeah. So the question I was going to ask you is there a big difference coaching the select compared to the high school level? Is it harder? What's the big difference between the two? You'd think.
Yeah, so I have this conversation, and you've probably heard me say this. I think the difference between select and playing for your high school is select's your club team. You're trying to get better, to do whatever for yourself more than anything else. You're concentrating on yourself.
Right.
When you come to play in high school, it's like playing for your country.
Right.
And everything else doesn't matter. It's how does that team do well.
That's a great way to put it.
That's the difference.
That's huge. I mean, that's big. I mean, did you find it more difficult to coach the select because it was kind of like that, where it was?
No, well, so most of my select. So after doing the little guys, and I was young, and really didn't know what I was doing, and kind of went around and was an assistant coach for anybody that I could. I pick up cones to try to learn. And then my son was born, and my wife said, "Hey, you're not doing this all the time. You need to be home."
Right.
Or asked me. She never would just make me, but she definitely asked, and she has a way to persuade.
Good save.
And so when Aiden was old enough to get back into it, they were 8 years old, and we took a team that was basically all in the same preschool class and started. So these kids were friends. We had parents who were friends. And so I was just passionate about really doing a good job for them. And if I spent as much time and effort learning the game then as I did on my business or anything else, I'd be a gazillionaire. And that team went on to win a state championship.
Wow.
Select. And they were all, and we never cut a kid. And it's so fun to see where those guys are at now. Some really good soccer players that most of them you wouldn't know the names because they went on to play for like FC Cincinnati or Columbus Crew, and are doing big things. So
Wow,
pretty cool.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So when you coached with Sully, you were the JV coach, or were you the varsity assistant?
I did both. So I think 1 year I was a JV coach, 1 year I was the assistant. There might have been a year I did both. I was there for 3-4 years in the mid 90s.
So was this Sully's first stint or second stint?
It was his first stint.
So,
but Gary Geis was his coach, his assistant for a while.
Geis.
And then Gary went on to do something else. It might have been school or
To be a doctor.
Yeah. Or an engineer or both.
Right. I think that's right.
I know.
I think that's right. So talk about coaching with Sully and his fire.
Sully was a huge influence. I mean, really, those guys you rattled off, Joe Moon, huge influence on my coaching, Jack Hermans, Sully. I mean, I called Sully probably 2 weeks ago just to bounce off some ideas that I'm thinking about for the girls for this summer and how he did things. And he took that program and put some class on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All the little things he did were, I'm just taking notes on, I got to remember that. that. And so I don't know. He was good to work for.
So you moved on, and then all of a sudden, 2016, the Anderson job for the women's soccer comes open, and how did that all come about for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that little team that we had was now 13-ish maybe, and there was the head coach at Anderson at the time was help me with
Miller?
this. No, God, I can't believe I'm forgetting this.
What, at Anderson?
For the boys?
Yeah, the boys.
Andy?
It wasn't Andy. It was right after Andy. Great coach.
Jones.
Jones.
Yeah, thank
Adam
you.
Jones.
Adam
Yes,
Jones.
Jones, yes.
He's gonna kill me for Adam Jones was. So I heard about Adam's interview at Anderson, and I don't remember where. It was at the gym or something, and somebody was talking about, hey, they're really excited about this young coach, and I was looking for a succession plan for my guys. So I invited him. I stalked him down on social media and called him up, and I'm sure he thought I was crazy. And we just kind of hit it off. And he was coming to train the boys once a week for a year, and then pretty much handed them over to him for a year. And so I was kind of, looking for a new girlfriend, really.
Right.
And was doing some things with a local club, Beachmont at the time, helping out. And he called me and he said, hey, would you ever think about coaching the girls at Anderson? I'm like, God, my dream job has always been the boys.
Right.
Like that's where I've always wanted to coach there. And I'm like, man, I don't know. My wife would never let me do it. Like all these things go through your brain.
Sure.
And so I said, hey, I have some interest. I would like to know more about it. So we talked some more. I threw my resume in. I did not tell my wife, but I threw it in there. And then I got a call from Chris, and he wanted the interview. So now I have to tell my wife, right?
Sure.
I can remember we went on some big trip, and I was going to tell her there, and I was like, no, I'm not going to tell her. I got scared because I didn't want to ruin the
Right.
I didn't want to ruin the mood. And so I can remember we were going out to eat, and I was like, I'm just going to do it. So we were walking in the door, and I was like, I got to tell you something. And she's like, just take the damn job already.
Oh, no way!
I wouldn't even offer the job at the time. I just had to tell her so I can go to the next step because I didn't want to. Anderson's a small place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Her girlfriends were telling her.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, she knew about it.
That's funny.
She was a total champ. She knows what I love to do.
Sure.
And has been super supportive about that. So.
Well, you know what's funny? I was getting ready to say, and this will, I'm not trying to get the brownie points. I know they're probably thinking I'm going to, but we all have very supportive wives because Steve, I know Donna does unbelievable things for you to let you do the things. And then my wife lets me do all my broadcasting because every Friday night I'm not at home.
That's right.
And then I do the basketball games and I'm not. So we've got unbelievably supportive wives. And if you don't have supportive wives, it makes it awful hard to do the things that we love to do.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's no way I could do this without her.
Yep. Agreed. All right, so let's talk about your first year, Andy. So the first year, how does that compare to after year 5? Obviously, with this whole COVID season, but that first year coming in, trying to change a culture, change everything. How was that experience as opposed to where you're at now?
Another great question. Yeah, that first year, I think we finished 500 if I don't count the tournament game, which I'm not going to count because I like hearing 500 better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I got my ass kicked a lot, and but we won our fair share, and so I would just, if I got beat, and I would ask that coach to lunch. I was like, hey, what are you doing? Like, what am I missing? And I would steal ideas. And, we would just work at it, and then slowly but surely I realized, the number on the number of kids I take is important.
Yep.
The right kind of kids, the right mix between, the different classes. Just all those things you just kind of learn over time, and it starts working. And then the message that, you start preaching to incoming freshmen and sophomores, by the time they're juniors and seniors, they hear it enough, and then it's just they're teaching the younger kids when you're not around, and they're holding them to the same standards, and it makes it a lot easier. So obviously it just got better and better and better. And
well, I think, and I've told you this, Dan, I think it's a firm believer that whenever somebody takes a coaching job, you obviously should not get gauged, measured on your first year. It should be your third or fourth year, depending on how the program is progressing and what they're doing. And you fit that perfectly. In fact, I got some stats here I want to go over here with you, which and just to go back, I was so thrilled that you got the position for you, I mean, obviously knowing I had a daughter coming through the program, but just for you and being an Anderson guy, and I knew you were the right temperament and the right guy for the job to come in to, after 4 straight losing seasons, that you were going to come in and turn things around. And it's no more, and Danny, I haven't even shared this with you, so I want you to listen to some of this. So 5 years, Andy, this is kind of like, this is your life, so just hang tight. So 5 years in just conference play, 20 wins, 7 losses, and 7 ties. And out of the 7 losses in 5 years, 4 of them were to Loveland.
Right.
To which Loveland made to state or won state 3 of those 5 years. And 3 of those losses were the first year when you got back to 500, like you said. The overall record is something that is probably approaching top notch for the women's program. Here's his overall record: 55 wins and only 20 losses.
Dang.
And 16 ties.
Wow.
And just incredible. Just to be 35 games over 500 after 5 years.
Right. That's awesome.
Is phenomenal, as you always say, Danny. But here's the other thing.
It could be better. It should be better.
It could always be better. You're right, but to do what you have done, to 500 the first year, 10-3 the second year with some ties, 14-4, 13-2, 12-4. The 2019 season, which was an unbelievable dream season for me to witness. 5-0 in the league. Came in first place, which, and I talked to Andy about this the other night, how many times that's happened in Anderson history. Right. I can tell you it's probably less than 5. And it's an unbelievable feat, and you don't know when the next one's coming, and it's so hard to get to that point. And Andy did an unbelievable job. In fact, he got Coach of the Year, Danny, that year. It's just unbelievable. And then the other stat, and I'm just going to keep going and shut up in a second here, but the amount of goals that you guys gave up. And I know you're a numbers guy and a goal. So the first year you give up 21 goals in 500 season. Second year you gave up 17 goals. Then 14 goals. The year you won the league, you only gave up 8 goals the entire season.
Wow.
And had 7 or 8 shutouts. And then last year, even through a COVID and everything like that, and some injuries, one of them being my daughter, they got into the top 10 all-time history of Ohio High School for women's soccer for amount of consecutive shutouts.
Dang. That's
which
impressive.
is incredible.
That's incredible.
I mean, I'm thrilled just to even talk about it, let alone.
It's one of the things the coaches, when I'm asking for advice, if you look at teams that win in the tournament, which is really what you're trying to do, is win that tournament. Those games are 2-1, 1-0. You have to be a really good defensive team to do well. So we changed that philosophy a little bit. But heck, look at the kids. It's kind of hard not to be a good coach without them. I could have rolled a ball out there, a couple of those teams, and they were going to win some games. Fantastic athletes. Not just soccer players, but basketball players and track players.
Sure.
And, we had it all.
Yeah.
So I get very fortunate with the talent that we've had at Anderson.
Well, how was that for you? Coaching, Steve is, someone you went to high school with, coaching his daughter, or guys that you've known that you went to high school with. Was that kind of like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it, or was it?
Part of it's good and bad. It just depends. If your daughter is a good player, it goes really
Makes
well.
Makes it easy,
right? If I guess expectations don't line up, then it gets a little difficult.
Right?
Really difficult, because I still live in Anderson, and I like to. I'm a people pleaser. I want everybody to be happy, but I also have to take care of my group. So, but for the most part, it's been great, and it is. There's probably at least probably a dozen people that I went to school with that their kids are now playing with us. So we're coming up the coming up. So
Well, and you're right. You do have to have talent to win, but the culture and the mentality that you change in that program, and just the traditions. You talk about it in football, Danny. Just the traditions, and I obviously hear it firsthand from Abby. That go on that and it's going to continue. A lot of times, as we all know, in public high school, when you can't recruit,
Right.
It's like this. Where it's a roller coaster ride with talent, and then you have a couple years off. And maybe that happened before, but I can tell you that's not dropping off. And that's not any pressure. In fact, that's compliments to Andy, because it's only going to continue that
Right.
way.
well, look, building a program is about keeping your talent at home. I mean,
That's right.
because it's a choice to go to Anderson High School.
Right.
I mean, there's McNick. There's lots of good choices
Right.
for the girls. St. Ursula, Ursuline.
See, and that's gonna be another podcast that we're gonna get into. Is we're gonna do the Catholic schools versus public schools, because my feelings about that. It stinks for public schools when they make it far in a tournament and they have to play a Catholic school that gets to recruit. That's what I can't stand.
But so that's one of the reasons I love this. It's the challenge of how do you win when
Right.
maybe you don't have the greatest hand, but
Right.
trying to figure that out. Like I would much rather win a state championship at my alma mater and Anderson
Absolutely.
High School
Yep.
than go somewhere that's a private school and I could go get anybody in the city
Right,
if I do a
right.
good enough job. So,
Right. I agree. And I would venture to say that out of your 20 overall losses, probably 15 of them are private Catholic schools.
it's possible. I will say Loveland's definitely a big percentage
Yeah,
of those
yeah,
losses.
yeah. It's
Because we
four
would
of them.
keep going back and
Yeah.
playing them again and trying whatever we could to.
Right.
And plus, you learn by playing better teams. So
Right. Well, talk a little bit about that your championship season, because that was just a fun experience to be a part of, and I'm sure it was both fun and heart wrenching for you as you were going throughout that season.
Yeah, I mean, well, we got a gift. I can remember we're playing some team and the girls are saying, this is the year prior. And they say, there's this girl named Mackenzie Burdick that wants to play soccer. And I know the Burdick
Right,
name from
sure.
growing up in Anderson,
Right.
but I don't know Mackenzie. I'm a boys club coach. I don't
Right.
know the girls actually have to help me a lot when
Right.
we're playing matchups
Right.
and stuff because they know everybody. And they're like, she's legit. And so I do my homework and I'm like, oh yeah, she's legit. And played for the DA and signed with Eastern Kentucky and then decided to come back and play her senior year. So I'm like, wow, that's going to be nice. So I'm excited about that. I'm losing a lot. I think we lost 14 seniors the year before.
Right.
And some really good kids.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, kids I was close with and kids that they were sophomores when I got there. So we've been through it all together.
Right.
And they really helped change the program. So we get to that year and the summer we're like, I don't think we give up a goal all summer.
No, I think you're exactly right.
And we play 13, 14 games.
Yeah.
And we play Lakota West, which is like won the state
They had
championship.
just
that
come
year.
off of it, of winning the state, and dominated them.
And we tied them 0-0.
I know, but dominated them though.
Well,
on the field.
I don't know about that.
From my side of the field, we dominated them.
They were really good. It's a preseason game. I don't know, but we really would like the second chance at them. And everything was headed that way.
Well, I just remember that game. I don't know why I do, but because I knew they were coming up with state champion, and we were wondering, are they missing players?
They were.
Because we were playing really well against a team that just won state.
Right.
Well, they were missing some players, and so were we. It was a couple college kids for there were on visits, and same with us. We were at ID camps or whatever. So we were missing some Division I players, and so were they.
Yeah.
Anyway, the preseason goes. I'm like, okay, well maybe we got a chance here, and then it just kind of one game at a time. It goes and goes and goes, and we get to Loveland, and that's really it.
Yep.
And it was
all the marbles.
A rainy night, and we give up a really soft goal early. It's wet, slides through, just is what it is. And in all the years past, we would have folded.
Yep.
This year, those kids battled and battled and battled. We ended up getting the equalizer in the first half, and then it's back and forth. Fantastic high school game. And we squeeze one in, like 5 minutes left to go.
Yep.
And then it's like, whatever you can do to waste this time to get it over
Yeah.
with. So,
Is that you, Danny?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I know.
You just ruined the perfect show.
Can you believe it? Unbelievable. Sorry.
no. And so anyway, but it's not over then. It's kind of, we have to win
Sure.
like 4 more league games.
No gimmies.
And the league is hard because everybody knows you, the matchups, so it's tough. And we end up playing Kings for the league championship at home.
And who's the coach of that team?
Caitlin Newton.
Yeah.
And we give up a goal in the first half, and we're losing 1-0 on a PK.
Oh.
And every minute that's going by, it's more tense and more tense and more tense. If we tie or lose, Loveland wins. So because we had a tie or something earlier
Right.
in the league. So we've been working on this set play forever, and it involves Catherine Dorsey, who was an absolute stud for us last year.
Yep.
And she's a kind of a quiet, reserved girl, and she hated being in the middle of it, but she would never do it. We'd have it set up all year long, and we could run the play, but they called it off because she was scared she was going to mess it up. So just like 2 practices before that, I'm like, Catherine, I want you to screw this up 10 times before you quit on it. 10 times. If you do it 10 times, then we won't do it again, but give it 10. Sure enough, very next time it comes up, she sits there, and it works like the most beautiful set play I've ever seen. She rolls off, gets the ball, takes it down, slides it in. Carly Steiner puts it in the back of the net. We're tied. And we're like, holy crap, we got a chance now.
Yes.
Now that we have a little chance. Then the second half goes, and it's going. And I'm starting to make changes, and I'm pushing the kitchen sink and everything. And I'm about to sub in, like take out 2 more backs, and just say, like, we're going to ride or die here is what we said
Right.
all year. And Catherine Dorsey again comes through and hits the game winner. What ends up being a game winner because we had to hang on for a while. But yeah, it was super exciting to watch those kids celebrate and be part of that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, I think what was awesome for me is just to live in through you, through Abby, and getting to hear that and seeing the excitement. And I think I got excited. What was it that year? Was it maybe that year when she scored that goal? With like seconds left or something.
District finals. Yeah.
And that was incredible. I mean, so I lived it through them and got excited, just for both you guys. I mean, and it just was such a neat thing to be a part of. And then to come back, and then this year was with Kate Dorco, Andy Dorco's daughter, was playing. So that I got to go with that too.
Sure.
So that was really cool to experience all that. Not being a soccer guy, but just kind of understanding the how it all goes and just the excitement and what you've done for the program. Andy, it's just been phenomenal. You can tell the excitement, for those games, and you could really tell, and the kids love playing for you.
Well, I love being their coach. I mean, the boys' job came open. Remember, I told you that was my dream job.
Yep.
And Adam said, hey, I'm leaving. Would you have any interest? And Newt said, I usually don't do this. And this is before they interviewed anybody else. I think they got a great coach now. And I'm like, I can't leave them. Like, I wouldn't leave these kids. Like, I love being their coach. So.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, that is too cool. They would run through a wall for you, Andy, and you know that. That's good stuff. All right, so moving on to your family. So let's get caught up with your family, because I know you have some news about your son Aiden, and he just finished kicking for Anderson and did a great job this past season and got a lot of opportunities. Not so much punting, but in the
with their offense,
he won't punt. He won't punt. Yeah.
But talk about your family and your wife and everything that you do now, involved besides soccer.
Yeah, so let's just start with the family, the kids. I have a 11-year-old Grady, who plays soccer, and I get to coach him in club, so that's going well. And I've got a 16-year-old daughter at McNick, and she's dabbled in a lot of different sports. She played golf, lacrosse, and she's doing great. Good. And Aiden is my senior, played soccer his whole life, and I get a call from Evan, what would have been off season, he's like, hey, I think I can help your son. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I have no idea what he's talking about. He's like, he just kicked from me. He says he wants to kick. I'm like, that's news to me. I thought he was a soccer player. But he decided he wanted to go all in. And so he did. And he's been working his rear end off. He's working with kicking coach Gantz, who was
Andrew Gantz,
who's been really helpful. And I'll tell you, even the improvement after high school for him, because he hasn't stopped. He's been going 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he's like, maybe I could do this in college. And he got an offer to play at DePaul. And we're like 98% sure that's where he's going to go. Probably within this week, we'll have it all ironed out.
That's awesome.
Hey, that cool?
He'll be he's the only kicker they're bringing in the class.
That is too cool.
Yeah.
No, I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, he really did.
I mean, first year, I don't know enough about it, so honestly, I just said, please don't embarrass us. I kept worrying about him getting killed on
a saving tackle.
Exactly. He actually had it.
He did. He did have that.
I mean,
he did a great job.
So I'm proud of him. I'm excited for him. So it'll be fun to see what happens with that. And then my wife. I mean, you've heard me talk about her.
Right.
I couldn't. Well, I'll wait for her. The other thing I do is I'm an owner and the CEO of Integrated Protection Services. Mm-hmm. We're just like ADT, of security, fire, that kind of stuff. And we have about 90 employees in offices in Columbus and Lexington. We do work all over the country. And we started that in 2000 and kind of grown it from scratch to a really nice company.
That's great.
And so without my wife, who is a godsend, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't do this.
Right.
Like I don't know how she's raised our 3 kids.
Right. They hold it together.
Yeah. She's top notch. So.
And on, tough games.
She knows when to leave me alone. She knows when to have a nice soft drink waiting for me when I got home.
That's good beverage. Right.
She's
tall or short.
Depends on the outcome of the game.
That's right.
That's sometimes too.
I'm sure Heather does all that, and
she loves coming to the games too. She's up there quite a bit. And she really enjoyed football season this year. She was. Yeah. I think we'll be at those games forever now.
Yeah.
It was really fun. So.
Yeah.
I think I'll be there for a little bit too. I can't get away from it.
They can't get rid of you.
I don't know why. Something brings me back. Well, let's talk a little bit about. We talk a lot about, obviously, Steve and I we lived in Anderson pretty much all of our lives. Talk a little bit why you think Anderson is such a special place to you.
Wow, that's a good question. It is a special place. I'm sure there's plenty of other special places if you grow up there, and I don't want to knock any of those. But to me, it's like I was thinking about this on the way over, thinking if I get this question, how do I answer it? But we could literally have this exact same conversation. Heather and I walking into Goodfellas,
sure,
the Varsity, some place like that. You guys are sitting there having, we sit down and talk, and we could go on forever, and the stories never end.
Right.
I think it's a big enough small community that my kid's not going to get in trouble without me knowing it. Like somebody's going to all those little pieces just make it special. I don't know.
I agree. I mean, it's why we've been here. Steve and I only made it to Dayton for a year. Yeah, and then we came back, and And
did you guys get that letter too?
We did. I did. I don't know about Steve. But I did. I just went up there just to support Steve. I think I was not into the school thing at all. Unfortunately,
dude, I feel you.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I was on the 10-year plan.
I'm still on it.
That's okay.
I'm still on it.
It turned out okay for me.
That's right. Look at you.
I'm still going on it. But, the other thing that I think you've probably seen that we've asked a lot of people too is, some of your memories, like, your favorite, maybe your high school memory. I don't know if you had anything in college or maybe as a coach and then some of the other things we like to do too is like a favorite teacher. We like to throw that one out there too. We like to hear some of those. So just give us like your favorite memory maybe in high school.
Yeah. So as it relates to sports, it had to be my senior year. Back then you played your league games home and away, or at least Turpin home and away, and which was on the same field.
Right.
Turpin won the state championship the year before, and they hadn't lost in forever. I think it was like some record long. They beat us the first game, and we beat them in the second game. And that second game was a barn burn, just great, fantastic game. I'll never forget it. Again, thousands of people watching.
Yep.
So as a player, that was that memory. As a coach, it had. Well, there's two. The first year I came, that 500 season, I don't know what the real story is, but the girl said we hadn't beat Turpin in 20 years. So we beat them 1-0.
Yeah.
And the goal was by a sophomore transfer, Kristen Sweeney, 1-0. But the part that I remember the most is Olivia Snyder makes an incredible save. With less than 5 minutes left, someone gets in behind her defense, and I mean, laying out. They say don't touch the girls, but I ran right out there.
Yeah, that's all right.
And then I just sat on the bench and watched those kids celebrate like it was 1999.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so much fun. And then, really, the moment that I still get choked up about and emotional was Abby's goal in that district game when 12 seconds left. And honestly, if we're tight, I never think we're going to lose. Till that last second, I think we have a chance. But it was getting pretty close.
It was there.
I was like, this is it or we're in trouble.
Right.
And that corner kick comes in from Mackenzie Burdick. Bounces around there, and she just puts a left foot on there and corner.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I guarantee you I've never run that fast up and down the sideline in my life.
And I saw it.
I am not fast.
I saw it right before I blacked out.
Yeah, we need to see that on film.
I was hugging anybody, you know. I mean, Ron and my assistant coach and I were just jumping up and down.
Yeah.
You lose all self-control.
Oh, yeah.
And I pride myself on trying to be in control all the time. So, favorite coaching moment for sure.
That's pretty cool.
It's really cool.
You asked about favorite teacher or coach. Has got to be probably Joe Moon. Is my I think he helped. I actually ran into him a few weeks ago, and I told him, I was like, man, you have really no idea how you helped change my life, like making me better as a player. Awesome. And I mean, I'm never late for anything now. I can remember if you were 1 second late for him, you just start running. All those little things that you're like, this is crap. Right.
Yeah.
Now you're like, man, thank you.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how
isn't that funny how when we were playing, we didn't think that, like that little stuff like that, and we were getting mad and all that, but now it's like,
you appreciate it so much more.
No doubt. No doubt about it.
Which has probably helped you in your business, in your coaching, in your family. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's crazy. But Andy, we really appreciate this, man. We honestly, when we do these podcasts, we could probably talk for hours. I mean, we could probably keep going on about other stuff too. Yeah. But we got to kind of limit the talking. But it's just been awesome talking to you tonight.
Well, I really appreciate you having me.
I just want to wish you luck and thank you for so much for what you did for Abby and coaching her and it's been so fun and as you said you're going to be watching the football games. So I mean obviously we're going to continue to come back and support you guys and I'm so happy that you were the right guy for the job and you still are and continue on. So continued success for you, Andy.
I really appreciate that, but Abby was a joy to coach for sure. That was I would maybe get her back and help me coach someday.
Well, you know what? She has a little bit of coaching in her, I think.
I wonder,
yeah. I wonder where she gets that from too. I wonder if she'd stomp her foot, but she probably wouldn't hear it out there on the
probably
turf.
Not squeaking.
Well, I know you guys want to knock this down, but a funny story about Abby.
Go ahead.
Like when Chris needs anything done, he would come down, like administrative wise, he'd come down. After a while, he just said, I'm not going to talk to Andy now, I'll just talk to Abby. It's pretty true.
Well, and I'm gonna pump her up a little bit too, because during all of my games, she would make the little game day logos for me. She is incredible at doing that stuff. I mean, so not only for just that, but for basketball, for Steve, for UC Claremont, every week she would make something, and there was one game where she forgot or she got busy. You know, she's a student, she's got games, and she felt horrible and I'm like, it's not a big deal, really. You know.
Well, have you heard about the fundraiser? Have you guys talked about it on the podcast?
We haven't talked about it, but it's pretty incredible.
I mean, she raised an incredible amount of money.
Yeah, $75,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. It just shows you, you know, and her and Jake did a great job. It was a lot of fun to be around.
Well, they had a lot of good people, and Andy was one of the ones that helped donate, and an incredible amount of support that they had around them too, which really helped.
Well, we need to get him now out on the golf course with Aiden out there for the alumni the thing, because we've got, I'm telling you, you talk about a clan that's coming in. I mean, you got some boy Don. I don't know if you know somebody, Don Klein and Mike Goyer, and I mean, there's some boys that are coming. I'm telling you, you'll be surprised at the amount of pops that are drank during that event.
That sounds like fun.
Sign me up.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, Andy. Again, it's been a pleasure talking to you again. We could have talked forever, but we really appreciate it.
Great job, Andy.
All right, so that's Andy Boyd joining us here on This Week in Anderson, and hopefully we'll have we'll be next week. We're trying to get our top 10 quarterback podcast going, so we're going to have that for you next week. So for Steve Ellis, Dan Albers, and Andy Boyd, you've been listening to This Week in Anderson. Have a good night, everybody.